Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 11th biology students, and this is for 21st August 2020. Our memory always helps us in reflecting upon, in coming to a conclusion, and in memorizing what we have been studying. Your memory helps us that we were studying chapter number 14, Respiration in Plants. And basically, respiration is energy releasing controlled process, and it involves breakdown of glucose molecule. Whatever we eat, be it in the form of breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, finally the end product of digestion is glucose. And when this glucose molecule has got sufficient amounts of oxygen through our respiratory system, then the glucose gets oxidized and we get 38 ATP molecules. In that 2 will be spent, net 36. Somebody is interested in terms of your physics quantity. We say 686 kilocalories of energy will be released. One glucose molecule gives us 686 kilocalories, or in terms of kilojoules, 2870 kilojoules. So respiratory substrates are those organic substances which can be catabolized to liberate energy inside the living cells. The most common respiratory substrate is glucose, which is a hexose. And we were also talking about the RQ, respiratory quotient, in various substances. It is the ratio of volume of CO2 evolved to volume of oxygen consumed per unit time per unit weight at standard temperature and pressure. We say STP. So RQ is basically volume of CO2 evolved divided by volume of O2 consumed. So respiratory quotient is equal to unity if carbohydrates are respiratory substances, and less than unity if fats or proteins act as respiratory substances. And I said yesterday, you must remember succulents. Succulents such as opuntia do not evolve carbon dioxide during night when their stomata are open. As the same is used, carbon fixation, thus RQ is 0. This you must remember for your NEET exam. So basically we were talking about aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So we were talking about these respirations, saprophytes, photosynthesis and respiration differences, and reasons why plants don't need respiratory organs we were talking, and this is what we were basically talking. C6H12O6 plus 6 molecules of oxygen gives rise to 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water plus energy. What is that energy? How much is that energy? I said 686 kilocalories. And this happens with a series of steps, and the first and foremost step in the respiration is glycolysis. And in glycolysis, we said these are the various steps that take place, right from glucose and finally pyruvic acid. One glucose molecule undergoing oxidation forms 2 molecules of pyruvic acid, and in the process we are getting 8 ATPs. And all this I hope you have gone through. And when oxygen is not available in sufficient quantity, very low quality, then we say fermentation. And in fermentation, the energy process is very less. It's just 2 ATP molecules. And here you must remember, in aerobic respiration, glucose completely gets oxidized. Of course, condition is there. What is the condition? Sufficient oxygen should be there. But in fermentation or anaerobic respiration, since oxygen is available in sufficient quantity, it is partial degradation of glucose. So there is always a question whether the remaining glucose, as and when oxygen is available to that organism, naturally it undergoes. So we must not fix in our mind that it is only at a given time it is only 2 ATP. But as and when the oxygen is available, the number of energy molecules that are formed may keep on rising. So let us not fix, because it is not complete 100% oxidation of glucose. But once oxidation takes place, then, and second point you must remember is, it is only glucose that is getting oxidized. But what about intermediary products that are formed? For example, in the second step, if you see, like in the second step, what we call, like this all we spoke, I wanted you to focus on this tricarboxylic acid. See, it is basically, there are so many substances that are formed, like citric acid, alpha ketoglutaric acid, succinic acid, malic acid. What about these? Do they also undergo oxidation? So, since they are not undergoing, intermediate substances are not undergoing, it is only pyruvate. Hence again, we should not fix it that per glucose molecule when this many ATP molecules are formed. But conditions apply. That you must keep it in your mind. So this is how tricarboxylic acid cycle takes place. I hope you have practiced once. But I am not seeing anyone posting it in our WhatsApp group. So please do that. And what is the importance of Krebs cycle? As far as Krebs cycle is concerned, as far as energy levels are concerned, it is 24 ATP molecules. And don't forget, in between glycolysis and Krebs cycle, there is link reaction. This is the link reaction. Pyruvic acid plus CoA plus NAD in the presence of Mg2 plus and pyruvate dehydrogenase, acetyl CoA is formed. And what is important? NADH. Since 2 pyruvic acids, so 2 NADH. So 2 NADH, 2 into 3, 6. So 8 molecules in glucose, 6 molecules in link reaction and 24. So that is the count that we arrive at. And in Krebs cycle, these are the various products that are formed. And then we talked about the fourth one. First one is glycolysis, second one is link reaction, acetyl CoA, and third one is TCA cycle, and fourth one is electron transport chain. And this is basically whatever NADH, FADH that are formed in TCA cycle will be utilized to produce water and ATP. So it is basically complex fifth is ATP synthase. This is how we talked. So the flow of electrons and protons, and what is important is maintaining protein or proton gradient. H plus ion gradient must be maintained. Then only ATP synthesis takes place. And that too, it is taking place in F1 particle of the mitochondria. So you know 3 areas: outer membrane, inner, matrix. Okay. So this is how we, and then we talked about respiratory balance sheet, that whatever we do the calculations, what happens to that net gain of 36 ATP molecules. And then fermentation, we said very less, and the products also will change. Either in case of muscles, it is lactic acid that is formed, and in case of fermentation, it is the alcohol that is formed. But ATP, as far as ATP is concerned, it is very, very less. And then we talked about a mechanism called chemoismotic synthesis of ATP in mitochondria. Whatever we eat, the final product, whether it is fats, carbohydrates or proteins, all this finally forms into pyruvic acid. Pyruvic acid forms acetyl CoA. Acetyl CoA enters into Krebs cycle, and the Krebs cycle will get us 24 ATP molecules. So in spite of what we are eating, the final product will be again conversion of all that we eat into energy. And RQ, respiratory quotient, as we said, the formula is volume of CO2 evolved by volume of oxygen consumed. So here, I said in the NEET exam, this is very, very important. Basically, we talked about succulents. So that you must remember. Okay, and also you must remember that in examination, what they would ask you is, like in Krebs cycle, let's say, like this. Instead of putting, let's say, malic acid here, they will put A, and putting citric acid B, like that. And they will ask you, identify A, B, C, like that. And what is the importance of this? Or they will ask you continuously malic acid in place of malic acid A and oxaloacetic acid B. and identify A and B. So you have to write A is equal to malic acid, B is equal to oxaloacetic acid. And what is the importance of this step? Formation of NADH, and how many ATP molecules will be synthesized, like that. Okay, so this is how the questions will be there. So you need to answer both glycolysis as well as Krebs cycle in this formation. It will be always alphabet questions, we say. They will remove some substances and ask you to identify A, B. Also, sometimes it will be steps also, numbers also, like glycolysis, glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, fructose to fructose 1,6-diphosphate. He will ask you ATP, how many ATPs are utilized and how many ATPs are produced.